Hello everyone. Today's video is going to talk about Snowflake table types and their properties. So all the data in Snowflake is maintained in databases. Each database consists of one or more schemas, which are logical groupings of database objects such as tables, views. Snowflake does not place any hard limits on the number of databases, schemas, or objects you can create. So we have below table types. One is permanent, transient table, and continued on the table types temporary, dynamic, and external hybrid. So these are the table types that we have in Snowflake. So we'll go through each now. So coming to the permanent table, so it persists. The properties of the permanent table are it persists until dropped, visible to everyone in your role or with privileges. For data that requires the highest level of data protection and protection recovery, in those scenarios, we can create permanent table. So it won't be dropped. It won't be until you manually drop it, it will not be dropped. And if you are keeping the data in the permanent table, for example, you created a table and created a copy of that table without cloning it, for example, right? So you if when you create that table, so it consists of redundancy depth in the data point of view. So it means to double the storage size. So unless and until we really need a permanent table, do not create a permanent table. So we'll cover this. Why? I mean, do we have any other options to cater the temporary, analytical purpose or anything? We have a temporary table. So whatever is really needed to be is stored and will be utilized for our future or those things, we can utilize permanent table. So as part of this permanent table or the Snowflake features, we have time travel and fail safe. So the time travel is applicable up to 90 days with an enterprise edition for permanent table. For fail safe, also it is available for permanent tables. Coming to the second one, which is transient table, it is like persists until we drop, like permanent table. It is visible to everyone in your role. For data that needs to persist but does not need the same level of data retention as a permanent table. For example, if you want to create a table which is like a truncate and reload kind of. In those scenarios, we don't need a permanent table to be really opted for. So for that scenarios, we can choose transient tables in Snowflake. So which will not need it for time travel, fail safe and all, which we don't need to have it. In those scenarios, we can use transient tables. So if we don't specify when you are creating table, right? So it is a permanent table. When you are while you are creating, if you mention it as a transient, then it is a transient table. It can treat it as a transient table. So the time travel for transient tables is 0 or 1 days. Fail safe is not available for transient tables. Coming to the third type, which is temporary table, as we discussed. So if a data scientist or if you wanted to do certain kind of analysis and which you don't need to put the data in a table, rather you can create a temporary table. So temporary tables, it persists until the end of the session. So where it was created. So you can create that. The moment you close the session, it is not going to be revoked. So you cannot get the table back. So visible only in the session to the user who created the session. And there is another usage of temporary tables are like during the procedures where control flow execution is in the process. So certain control flow requires we might need to create a temporary table and dump the data into temporary table and utilize it in the same procedure for other purpose. So during those scenarios also temporary tables are going to be very much useful. Okay, often used for transitory data, for example, ETR or ELT, as we discussed, right? So during the proc or any other thing, so you during the session you can create that and you can insert certain data and you can use that for a lookup or something else. So that is the major advantage of temporary table. Once you come out of the session, so it is not be stored anywhere. So time travel for this is 0 or 1 days and failsafe is not available. And coming to the fourth type, which is dynamic table, which is used for materializes the results of a query. This will be used for and privileges assigned to create and or work with dynamic tables. Table automatically kept up to date based on user specified lag time. So I will explain you each and every table types, how to create, what are the advantages, what are the other things that we need to consider when we need to consider what. I'll explain you in detail in further videos, but right now I'm explaining you what are the table types and the advantages, and time travel is available and failsafe also is available for dynamic table. Okay, so now the other table type, which is fifth table type, is external table, which persists until dropped and visible to everyone in your role, data accessed by an external stage and read only. So here you cannot update or you cannot do any operations on the external tables. These tables require the external stage because these tables are going to be created on top of external data like Azure Data Lake or AWS S3 or whatever GCP storage is, right? So you are directly going to access the data from the cloud storage itself if you have any requirement as such. So that's the reason we call them as external storage, and control on this is going to be completely like on the external storages itself. Snowflake will not have any metadata maintenance of all these things. So completely metadata and everything will be maintained by the external storages itself. Time travel, because it's an external thing to the Snowflake. So no, Snowflake will not have the time travel availability for this, and failsafe also not going to be available. And the next one is hybrid table, which is persists until it is dropped, visible to everyone in your role, optimized for hybrid transactional and operational workloads. So the time travel is available for this, but not fail safe, because this is more of a transactional and operational work, maintains the operational things. So like OLTP purposes, online transaction processing kind of. So that's where it is not going to have the fail safe mechanism. Okay. So, and we have another table also, but we are not covering as part of this video. So later we can cover it. That is called Apache Iceberg tables. So we'll talk more about that later. So thank you everyone.